Hello again, everyone. Sorry I've been so away from my Operation Epic playlist, but I have returned with a video on a subject that I find disturbingly common even among my Catholic brethren, and I believe it needs to be addressed before things get out of hand, and that is, what the heck is the deal with political correctness? Now, for those of you that don't happen to watch the news, which I know is probably none of you, but I'll say it anyway, political correctness is that term where you always have to say, like, you're not allowed to use terms in a generalization format. You have to say what's like the least offensive to the least amount of people, because nowadays everyone gets offended by everything. It's like if I dare say, like, hey, I've got a bunch of black coworkers, they'll be like, you can't say the word black, Paul, that's being racist. Well, okay, I have a bunch of dark-skinned coworkers. You can't say that, Paul. Now you're being racist against both that and the countries. Okay, I have a bunch of African American coworkers. You can't say that, Paul, because you're differentiating them. They're all human, and therefore you have to call them human. And it's like, but they're black people. What's the big deal about being called a black person? See what I mean? You can't please anyone. Like, even on this channel, I know for a fact that I'm going to get dislikes for some of the things I say. If I wanted to be universally popular, that would be asking for the impossible. But that's the thing. You can't say, like, anything anymore without someone getting on your case about it. For instance, when we as Catholics profess the creed at Mass, there's a part of the creed that always trips me up when there's a part where it says, for us men and for our salvation he came down from heaven. But some people I know, especially the more liberal Catholics, they say, for us and for our salvation. It's like, no, in the creed it says, for us men. Now, granted, some of you might be thinking, well, Paul, why don't we say for us humans? Well, that's because when the creed was written, it was assumed that man is a general term referring to mankind in general. Paul, you can't say that, because if you say mankind, then you're excluding women. For crying out loud, it means humans. See what I mean about how annoying political correctness is? You can't just simply say things as they are anymore. You always have to worry about that little minority that's going to get offended by absolutely everything. It's like if I make a general statement saying, okay, well, 60% of women tend to act based on emotions rather than logic. But then one of my logic-driven female friends says, now wait a minute, Paul, you can't be saying that, because I happen to be very logical. And it's like, okay, I get it. But you're in the 40%. I'm not going to completely change my statement just because you're in the minority here. And that's the thing that a lot of people seem to be in the mindset of, is we always have to be mindful of the minorities. And seeing as I'm in the minority myself for some of the things that I have and whatnot, I vehemently disagree. I don't want to be given special treatment just because I'm in the minority. I want to be treated like any other human, and you can call me what you want. What matters is, that you respect the dignity of humanity in the first place. That we humans aren't, like, brought down to the level of animals. That is where you have to be careful. Because there are some people that, for instance, let's say that we're talking about sex drives. And I won't get too into this because I know that's more like Jason Everett's area of expertise. But some people might say, well, Paul, I happen to have attractions to both genders, and that, like, defines who I am. That would kind of make you more like an animal, because animals go by instinct. If they have a desire, they're going to chase it. We as humans have free will. We can say no if it's inappropriate. Paul, you can't say that because now you're being prejudiced against bisexuals. For crying out loud. And you can't even express the truth anymore without people getting mad. See, that's another thing that apologists and evangelists like myself always have flack with too, is sometimes we just try to tell the facts of the matter. Think the Bill O'Reilly show, which I really love him because one of his statements is, there's nothing that speaks harder than cold, hard facts. And sometimes when we try to present the facts of life, even if they're not Catholic, there are still people that get offended by it. Like, for instance, my dad, he's an apologist, so therefore he tells the truth about what the Catholic Church actually believes. And people still get offended because they're like, well, you can't be saying that. You're being rude and prejudiced and all those other words that I've been overusing in this video. And he's like, no, it's the truth. Why are you so determined to ignore the truth just for the sake of not hurting people's feelings when feelings in and of themselves are subjective? I know of some people that cry so hard that they fall to the floor at funerals. Then I know others that don't shed a single tear when their mom dies. In fact, my uncle, he didn't cry at all when my grandma died. So how are you supposed to address a subjective world objectively? Quite honestly, I don't know. I really don't know. And maybe that's because I was homeschooled, and in homeschooled we were taught, like, this is what a girl is, this is what a guy is. Take it or leave it. And now it's like that line has become blurred. It's like, well, you can't say that person's a woman anymore, Paul. You have to ask them what gender they identify as. Or I can't say, well, I'm an American, because they'd be like, well, Paul, that's disrespectful to your ancestry. And it's like, ugh! I normally keep my cool in these kind of situations, but sometimes every single human has a breaking point. And what we have to realize first and foremost is that in the Bible, Jesus said, I am the way, the life, and the truth. He wasn't afraid of saying things that completely shocked his crowds. He wasn't afraid of getting to the nitty-gritty. Perhaps one of the most controversial statements in terms of political correctness that I can think of off the top of my head is when he said, well, any man that looks at a woman with lust commits adultery in his heart. And some of you women might be thinking, well, Paul, that's an offensive statement because, women can lust too. And it's like, I know that women can lust, but in Jesus' time, it was a much more common thing for the men to be lusting. If you want biblical proof that women lust, just look at the book of Genesis and how Potiphar's wife went after Joseph. Even in the Bible, they talk about it. It just wasn't as common back then. Also, the whole subject about homosexuality. You try your best to tread so carefully on that subject. The Catholic Church says, homosexual activity is frowned upon. And people get offended by that because they're like, well, we're not allowed to express ourselves the way they are. And it's like, okay, we get that you have attractions. We get that. I mean, I can't help it if I get hungry for pizza, but I can choose to say no to it. The other day I splurged on junk food. I probably shouldn't have done that. I gave in to my temptations. Was it good? Was it natural? No. I'll probably end up having to go to reconciliation for it. The fact is, I gave in to an unhealthy desire. And it was wrong of me. What's to say even heterosexual couples have to deal with this? So why is it that there's not heterosexual people that are, up in arms about their attractions? It's kind of stupid. So to fix this issue, quite honestly, I think it's going to take more people than just me, because I'm just one man in, how many people there are in the world? And of course, I know some of you are going to get offended by the way that I'm portraying this. You're going to be like, Paul, you're talking too harshly and your tone of voice is offending me. And it's just like, I don't know how to please everyone, okay? I mean, I hardly get comments on my videos to begin with. And even so, sometimes when you're expressing the truth, you gotta just simply say it. You can't always try your best to, quote, walk on eggshells, because somewhere out there, there's going to be someone that gets offended by everything, especially if you go on Facebook, like political memes or even joking memes. It's like you can never express your point of view without someone being up in arms about it. And even worse, you can't just express simple, concrete, undeniable truth. So, admittedly, on Facebook, I think people could probably just, restrain themselves from posting memes, because quite honestly, that doesn't get anywhere. But hopefully at least one person will think about these words that I'm saying, and how, we shouldn't be so afraid of simply expressing the truth. To paraphrase Dumbledore, use the proper name for things. Fear of a name increases fear of the thing itself. So Harry insists on saying Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, even though so many people are saying, don't say the name. And Harry's like, I'm not afraid of the name. That's who he is. That's the reality. If you're trying to hide from him, that just makes him more scary. So don't be hiding from the truth, people. Be brave and face the truth, because we Christians aren't called to be a spirit of cowardice. We're called to be a spirit of courage, which is one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, for those of you that don't know. Anyway, I think that's about enough out of me. Don't want to make this go too long. So please let me know in the comments section what you really want to see, because I can talk about a whole variety of subjects. So until my next video, remember what I always say: keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless.